How some people always seem to be moving forward while others stay stuck no matter how hard they work? Two people start at the same job at the same time. One is living paycheck to paycheck 10 years later while the other is running their own business or retired early. It is not magic. It is not that one of them was lucky. The difference is focus. One spent years looking at what everybody else was doing, comparing, complaining and copying. The other poured their time and energy into building themselves. Jim Rohn built an entire life philosophy around this. As a broke 25-year-old, he was full of excuses and envy. He would look at successful people and think they were just fortunate. Then a mentor told him, if you want things to change, you have to change. That single idea flipped a switch. He stopped looking outward and started working inward. Within a decade, he was a millionaire entrepreneur and one of the most sought-after speakers in the world. Focusing on yourself is not selfish. It is self-responsibility. Think about someone you know who is always talking about what others have. Maybe a coworker who complains about promotions, or a friend who scrolls through social media all day feeling jealous of vacations and cars. That person is draining energy on things they cannot control. I had a friend who did exactly this. Every payday he would look at what everyone else was buying and then spend his own paycheck on flashy things to keep up. 10 years later, he was still in debt, while the quiet colleague who kept her head down, studied after work, and invested consistently had built a business and savings account that gave her real freedom. Same workplace, same starting salary, completely different outcomes because one focused outward and the other focused inward. Jim Rohn used to say, work harder on yourself than you do on your job. When you focus on yourself, you build skills that no one can take away from you. I remember when I was in my early 20s working a basic office job. My colleagues spent lunch breaks gossiping about management decisions. I started bringing a book on personal finance and another on communication skills. At first, people teased me for being too serious. 2 years later, I was promoted to a better position and earning twice as much, while several of those same colleagues were still stuck complaining. The difference was not luck. It was focus. I stopped blaming external things and poured my energy into improving myself. Another part of focusing on yourself is setting your own goals and defining your own version of financial freedom. Too many people chase goals because they see others doing it. Someone else buys a car, so they want a car. Someone else invests in a business, so they jump in too. Jim Rohn warned that if you do not design your own life plan, chances are you will fall into someone else's plan, and guess what they have planned for you? Not much. I met a young man who thought financial freedom meant earning a six-figure income. He worked 80 hours a week and burned out. Another friend defined financial freedom as having enough passive income to cover basic living expenses so she could choose work she loved. She lived simply, invested wisely, and within 10 years had achieved her goal. She was free while he was still trapped because she knew what she was aiming for. When you focus on yourself, you take the time to define what freedom means to you rather than copy someone else's dream. Focusing on yourself also means developing financial discipline. Jim Rohn taught that you must learn to live on less than you earn and invest the difference. This sounds simple, but many ignore it because they are busy comparing lifestyles. I knew a couple who earned a modest income but saved and invested consistently from the time they were newlyweds. Their friends with higher salaries mocked them for driving old cars and skipping expensive vacations. 20 years later, the couple had a paid-off home, no debt, and a healthy investment portfolio that allowed them to retire early. Meanwhile, several of their high-earning friends were still working to pay off loans. Daily small choices, made quietly, build true wealth. Another key idea is to guard your mind from distractions. In the age of social media, it is easy to believe you are behind because you see only the highlight reels of others. Jim Rohn never had to deal with Instagram or TikTok, but his advice still applies. He said, stand guard at the door of your mind. If what you consume every day makes you feel anxious, jealous, or inadequate, you will act from that place. One of the best things I ever did was a 30-day social media detox. Instead of scrolling, I used that time to learn a new skill and update my resume. By the end of that month, I landed a freelance project that became a steady income stream. Nothing magical happened, I simply reclaimed my focus. Relationships are another area where focusing on yourself matters. Jim Rohn famously said you are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. If you spend time with people who only complain about money, you will adopt their mindset. If you spend time with people who are learning, growing, and investing, you will naturally rise with them. Years ago I started attending a small business networking group instead of hanging out at the same old bar. The conversations shifted from gossip to ideas. Within a year I had partnered with someone from that group on a side project that doubled my income. Again, the difference was focus. I chose to place myself in an environment that fed my goals instead of my distractions. Health is also part of financial freedom. Many ignore this, but Jim Rohn often reminded audiences that your body is the only place you have to live. Medical bills and low energy can sabotage your financial goals. I had a colleague who earned a high salary but neglected his health. A serious illness wiped out his savings and forced him to stop working. Another friend made moderate income but exercised regularly and ate well. He rarely missed work and had energy to pursue side projects that increased his wealth. Focusing on yourself includes caring for your body so you can enjoy the freedom you are building. Let us also talk about attitude. When you focus on yourself, you take responsibility for how you respond to life. Jim Rohn said you cannot control the wind, but you can adjust the sails. I remember a time when my company downsized and I lost my job. Some former coworkers spent months blaming management and waiting for things to get better. I decided to use the setback as a chance to upgrade my skills. I took a free online course, updated my portfolio, and within 3 months had a better job at a higher salary. My circumstances were the same as theirs, but my focus was different. Instead of looking outward with blame, I looked inward for growth. Time management is another crucial piece. We all get the same 24 hours each day. When you focus on others, you waste hours thinking about what they are doing. When you focus on yourself, you use those hours to build your future. Jim Rohn taught that time is more valuable than money because you can always make more money, but you can never get more time. I once started waking up 1 hour earlier to plan my day and work on a personal project before my job. After a year, that project became a business generating extra income. That 1 hour a day, focused on myself, changed my financial trajectory. Generosity may sound like the opposite of focusing on yourself, but it is actually a natural result. Jim Rohn believed in giving as a principle of abundance. When you build yourself first, you have more capacity to help others. I know a woman who struggled financially for years while giving away money she did not have to impress others. She finally decided to focus on getting her own finances in order. She built a small business, paid off debt, and saved. Now she gives more than she ever could before, and it comes from a place of strength, not sacrifice. All of these lessons, working harder on yourself than your job, defining your own version of freedom, developing financial discipline, guarding your mind, choosing relationships wisely, caring for your health, taking responsibility for your attitude, managing your time, and giving from strength, flow from one central idea. Stop obsessing over what others are doing and start investing that energy in yourself. Jim Rohn's life is proof. At 25 years old, he was broke, comparing himself to others, and full of excuses. By his mid-40s, he was a millionaire influencing millions because he shifted his focus inward. Picture your own life 1 year from now if you made that shift. Think about waking up knowing you have built skills, savings, and confidence. Think about no longer feeling jealous of someone else's highlight reel because you are busy creating your own. Think about your family seeing you not as someone chasing appearances, but as someone quietly building real freedom. That is not a fantasy. It is a result of daily choices compounded over time. When you wake up tomorrow morning, remember this moment. The race you are running is yours. The only competitor who matters is who you were yesterday. The only score that counts is the progress you make on your own goals. Focus on yourself, not others, and you will achieve the financial freedom you have been dreaming about. Like Jim Rohn said, success is nothing more than a few simple disciplines practiced every day, and failure is simply a few errors in judgment repeated every day. The good news is you get to choose which it will be. Start choosing you. Start building you. And watch how your life transforms.